We know the stories about getting a letter from the Rebbe for your child, for your baby, for your chasana, and you wonder if it's the same. The Rebbe knows who you are, bichlal. The Rebbe wrote you, say your name. Everybody gets the same letter. It could be that everybody got the same letter, but each one of those letters was addressed directly and specifically to you. To you, to the point in which not only the Rebbe knows your name, and he knows who you are in this letter, but the Rebbe knows your birthday, and he mentions it. And this is also a very, very important thing to realize, that when we ask brachas from the Rebbe, the Rebbe is the Nasi of the Klal Yisrael, and the Rebbe is your Rebbe, of you, the individual that you are.
I'm Yossi Kamen. Welcome to Among Chassidim by Der Her, an ongoing farbrengen about life as a chassid, our vibrant connection with the Rebbe, and inspired living shaped by the way he teaches us each and every day. Bruchim habayim, Rabbi Dahan. How are you?
Baruch Hashem. Thank you for hosting.
Of course. Thank you for making it happen. And I'm ready to begin. Let's do this.
Sure.
So I was thinking, one time I sat with you by a farbrengen many years ago. I was very young. I remember I was like inspired by what you were talking about. So maybe that's the last conversation. That's the last meaningful conversation we had. We've been always saying hello to each other since then, but that's the last meaningful conversation I had with you. So let me start off with that. Take where that left off. So I remember you were talking about how you wanted. I think the Rebbe was davening for the Amud. Maybe it was Yud Shvat. I don't know. You'll tell me. And you wanted to come from Merchakim, from far away, only to hear how the Rebbe, you kept them repeating a certain tenuah of how the Rebbe davened Kabbalah Shabbos, Ravlach Shabbos Be'emek Habacha. So that's what I remember. So I don't remember where were you coming from, what were you doing, what were you talking about. I just remember that it had an impression on me. So maybe you could fill in the blank over there.
Well, firstly, it's impressive that you remember a farbrengen from so many years ago. Sometimes you sit down, you farbrengen with junge bachim, älter bachim, with ingelait. You don't necessarily know if anybody's listening, if anybody's going to remember whatever it is that you say, and then to hear that maybe close to 20 years later, you still remember what I said with the farbrengen. It's very impressive, because I don't even remember everything I said. I know I said l'chaim, that much I remember.
I'll tell you, for me, it was memorable for me because I was very young, maybe 14 or 15. I think it was the first time in my life that I stayed up till, it was the Adolf Nissen. It was the first time in my life I stayed up till, 4 a.m. farbrengen. So that was the first experience for me. So I felt mature. So maybe that's why I remember. But I also remember what you said had an impression.
Yeah. Okay, ganz good. So to start, you're starting really with the bang. This Maisa actually happened Tavshim Dalet. I was on Shlichus in Brunois, which is actually where I'm from. And there's a lot of this very interesting
You're from
interaction.
Brunois?
I'm from Paris.
From Paris, yeah. Okay.
I'm from Paris. My father was in Brunois. My parents got married in Brunois, and then they moved to Paris. But that's I learned in Brunois, and then actually I went on Shlichus Tavshim Dalet.
Sorry, could you backtrack a little bit? Your parents are from where? They living in Paris. They went to Brunois. How'd that happen? You could tell us Bekitzer if you want, or Barichas.
Sure. Well, actually, my father, Alav Shalom, was one of the first Talmidim in the yeshiva in Meknes, in Ole Sefitzchak, under Michoel Dahan. How did he end up there is also an interesting story. He was actually he was a yasam when he was very young. His father was a rav in a village, and he passed away. My father was very young. By the time my father was 10 years old in Tafshin Yud, a shliach came to the village, and he went to the shul. That's where the cheder was. And he said to the melamed...
Michoel Dahan talking about.
Either it was Michoel Dahan, I think may have been some table, other shluchim that were then at the time. And he went to the cheder and he said to the Melamed, we're opening a yeshiva in Meknes and we need Talmidim. So the Melamed said, this little kid is a Yosem, go ask his mother. And so he went, and my grandmother was very happy to send him. Why was she so happy to send him? Is because after my grandfather passed away, his younger brother was a banker, so he was more of a man of the world. So he came and he told my grandmother, I'd like to take your son in the big city in Casablanca. I'll send him to school. I'll make him a whole mensch. He'll be a businessman like I am. My grandmother says, no, his father was a Rav. He's going to be a Rav. He's going to be in yeshiva. Mm-hmm. So he told her, what do Rabbanim do a whole day? They sit to the book and they smell tobacco. So when the Shliach came, was soon after this Maaseh, she was very, very happy to send my father away. So he was only 10 years old, and he went to a Lipsker in the yeshiva in Meknes. When he was 14 years old, he's 14 going to 15, his group was up to continue, and continuation was in Brunois. So he was from the first Talmidim in the yeshiva in Meknes, and he was from the first Kvutze that went from Meknes to Brunois. My mother was, interestingly enough, from the same village in Morocco, but she came to France. She first went to Besrivka in Morocco, and then from there, she was 12 years old. Also, she went to France to Besrivka. Also, same thing, a group of girls were going, and she was there. Then eventually, they got married. It's actually a very interesting story. Since, if we have time, I could tell you.
Time is not a problem. So
okay, a very interesting story about the shidduch. I actually printed those letters in a shura I made for one of my son's chasana. There is I see a letter about the shidduch, a letter written to my father, in which the Rebbe says. Being about the proposition for the shidduch with a girl from Besrivka, being that nachon hadavar be'einei kol asher itam diber, being that it seems to be a right choice based on the discussion you had with all the people you spoke to, so then shidduch b'shato u'mutzlachas. The shidduch should be in a good auspicious time. Much later, actually probably 40 years later, I saw a letter that the Rebbe wrote a day before to Reb Berel Gurevich, was the Menahel of Besrivka. And the Rebbe wrote to him a letter about making plays, productions and so on. And the last paragraph of the letter, the Rebbe says, and benagea to the Atzas Lichpades, the shidduch proposal for the Talmida, my mother's name, being that the Bacher in question is a Talmid Tomchet Mimim, so then nachon hadavar ve'yeh b'shato u'mutzlachas. It is a right thing to do, and should be b'shato u'mutzlachas. This letter the Rebbe wrote to Berel Gurevich a day before. The Rebbe wrote to my father, being that it seems to be a right thing based on the people you spoke to, then you should go ahead with it. But be'emes is a kriyuk ksiv. It seems from the other letter the Rebbe wrote the day before is that being that this is a good idea based on whoever I spoke to, you should go ahead with it. And it's very interesting, because what I'm taking from this is that the Rebbe then was very involved. The Rebbe was very involved with every Talmid, with every Talmidah, and but at the same time, he gave them the impression that the ball is in their court. You have to do something. You have to do your job. You have to do they call due process, whatever. And I think that this is very much in line with whatever the Rebbe has always told us. I'm here to help, but the avodah is yours. So
Right.
I think that this putting it together, this story was a very beautiful thing.
Very interesting. Did your parents ever see the Rebbe themselves?
It's a good question. Yes, my parents have
Before
seen the
then,
Rebbe.
obviously.
Before then, never.
Yeah. Oh, before then,
Never.
never. No, yeah.
Never. Going to the Rebbe from France was probably a few months' salary at that time, and my father was a bacher in yeshiva. He didn't have a father, and he was completely under the care of the yeshiva. So going to the Rebbe wasn't an option financially.
That's also a whole other thing, how these people are asking the Rebbe for if they should do a shidduch, and their whole relationship with the Rebbe was through mechtavim and through letters. Like, it's interesting.
Yeah, I'll up you one on this one. Tafshin Yudches, one of my father's closest teachers, Lebke Levin. Leb Levin was a Neveler, his titles. He was not only a teacher to my father, he was very, very close. So he was going to the Rebbe. My father told him, "You're going to the Rebbe. Mention my name in Yechidus. When you buy the Rebbe, mention my name." So okay, Leb was in Yechidus. At the end of the Yechidus, the Rebbe asked him, "Do we need to talk about something else?" So he said, "Yeah, my Talmid Shimon Dahan is asking for a bracha." So the Rebbe says, "Shimon ben." He couldn't remember. It wasn't one of those common names like Freda, Mushka Seminary. It's like the name was Isa. So the Rebbe lets him sweat. And the Rebbe is thinking, and the Rebbe says, "Shimon ben." He has no answer. The Rebbe smiles and says, "Dacht mir, Shimon ben Isa." It seems to me, I think that it is Shimon ben Isa.
Wow.
So of course, Lebel says, yeah, that's the name. He runs out of Yechidus, he writes the name on a paper because he won't remember it again. And when he comes back to Brinois, the first thing he runs to my father, he says, "What's your mother's name?" So when he says his mother's name, he says, the Rebbe knew the name.
Wow.
Now, it's interesting. I explained this. By the way, this story is multi-layered. The first thing, to go back to what I was saying before, the Rebbe knew the name.
Right.
Why are you making the guy sweat? It has to come from you. I'm not going to do everything for you. I'm here. I'm helping you, but you have to do something. You have to do an effort. And I think this is recurrent in the Rebbe Sichos. And by the way, I witnessed this once myself. I think it was in Tafshin. It was in Memhei. I think it was Tafshin Memhei. Michoel Lipsker, that we mentioned before, was actually very sick. I think it was Memhei, maybe early Memvav, I don't remember. But, and by Kriya upstairs...
He was living in Crown Heights then?
He was living in Crown Heights. He was actually in charge of 1414. So it helped that he remembered my father. I got an extra... I was able to ask him if I wanted the pulke or the other side. He would help. Anyways, but at one point he was very sick, and by Kriya upstairs on a Monday or a Thursday in the Zal, the Rebbe used to get Shlishi, and right after the Rebbe's Aliyah, David Raskin will make the Mishaberach for the Cholim. So after he finished, the Rebbe turns to David Raskin and tells him, "From Michoel Lipsker, make a Mishaberach for Michoel Lipsker." So I say, Michoel Ben, he doesn't know, so he looks at the Rebbe. The Rebbe pointed to Zriel Chaikin, the Rav of Kiev. He's his son-in-law. So the Rebbe pointed to him that he should say the name. He started to think, and when he's standing in front of the Rebbe and the Rebbe is asking something, I've experienced this myself. I just freeze. I don't know what to say. So the Rebbe waited a few seconds, and then he said the name. I can remember the name. I remember this Ma'amad, how the Rebbe asked for the name, but he said the name. So again, the Rebbe said the name, the Shem Imoy. Wow. So again, it goes back to the same Inyan. So okay, we mentioned Michoel Lipsker, so Yizachir Letov.
I once heard someone told me that he was speaking to a younger person, older than me, but a younger person, that he was speaking to a certain Elter Chassid once, and he was asking like this famous question, like, did the Rebbe know who I was? I was around, and in the Aleph and the Beis in the later years. I was a kid. Begashmis, I want to know. So this chassid told him, "Were you in Duchis? Was your name in Duchis over the years?" He said, "Yes." He says, "Then Begashmis, the Rebbe knows you, because the Rebbe knows the names." So there's various stories that I heard about that, but these are two fresh ones that I never heard before. So this is amazing.
Yeah. So just to go back to this other layer I wanted to bring from the story about how the Rebbe knew my father's name, my father's mother's name. I thought then, when my father always told us the story, he told this story many, many times. So I figured, Tafshin Yudches, how many people wrote to the Rebbe? I thought I was a young kid, and I thought that Lubavitch was very small. My father has received letters from the Rebbe already from Tafshin Tesvav. Soon after he got to Bruno, already received letters. And so I figured that for many years, my father is writing, 100 Bachim in Bruno, another 100 maybe in Kfar How many? So the Rebbe remembers the name, because then came Igros Kodesh, and I realized that by Tafshin Yudches, there were already 20,000 letters at least that were already written. So even that, Begashmius is not really shayach.
Right.
So I gave a pshat, everything what Baal Shem Tov says, Avas Yisrael is to someone that you have never seen in your life. And so the Rebbe never saw my father at that time. The Rebbe haven't yet seen my father. But when you love somebody, you remember his birthday, you remember his name, you remember his mother's name. That's it. You get a new cell phone, you remember the number right away, because it's nagea to you.
Right.
My cell phone, you won't remember. But not that I'm not nagea, I know I am, but it's not the same. So the Rebbe loves Ayid. Pashat Kipshuto, he loves Ayid. He remembers his name, remembers his birthday, which I have another interesting story about the birthday since we're talking about it. But I'll put it on hold for a second until I told this story to a Chassidish Geman who was then in Montreal and today's in Sfas, Zaman Kaplan. I told him the story, and he told me, "No, what's the wonder? The Rebbe is in the Neshama Klodis. What is Shmoi V'Shem Imoy? Shmoi V'Shem Imoy is in the Neshama. Connect with your Neshama through Shmoi V'Shem Imoy. The Rebbe is the Neshama Klodis of the whole Doyer. Of course he knows Shmoi V'Shem Imoy of every single year. So this took it a bit further.
You take a see whenever there's someone asks for a bracha, the Rebbe, the Rebbe is very makbid to know the name and the mother's name. That's like a very important component of it.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so this is another deeper level of the Rebbe's Avos Yisrael, the Nasi's Avos, whatever, the connection of the Nasi to individuals. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So let's go back to you. You were on. So you learned the Merwa, and then you were later on Shlichus in Merwa.
I did learn Bruno for a very long time. The Nissen was very intent that I should go to Bruno and Shlichus. He spoke to my father. He told my father different things, why I should go there. And I very much didn't want it. I wanted to, finally, I got to New York. I wanted to stay there.
You were in Alatera?
Chavet Teire in those times was for the younger Bachim. It's not like today. Chavet Teire in those days was where the Kvutze went, and Bachim that were not yet 20, 21, that's where they went.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you had the choice to go, if you're American, go to Morristown to Alatera, but so I went Chavet Teire first. But it didn't, not for long, because then I got called in by the Braskin, that the Nissen put me on the list, and the name went to the Rebbe, and I got to go to Bruno. I called Panim. I mean, yeah. Interesting stuff about my learning. I learned in Cheder. I was in Sinai, which is Pevsner school. It was in Paris. That's where we lived. We actually originally lived in the Platzel, and the school was in the Platzel. And that's it. That's where I went. At one point, actually, in Topshim Aleph, my mother went in Yechidus. And it was Tishrei Mem Aleph. It was the last day of Yechidus Pratis. I had Yechidus Pratis many times before. First time was when I went right after Bar Mitzvah. But this
That
time I
was the
wasn't.
first time you were by the Rebbe?
I was by the first time I went to the Rebbe was a week after my Bar Mitzvah. So it was also I came in Tisha. Bar Mitzvah was the end of Elul. My father couldn't come with me because he was a Rav, and that's when they work, right, in Tisha.
Mhm.
So I went myself then, and I went to Yechidus myself. Interesting mice is also there. But this Yechidus Tishrei Mem Aleph, my mother tells me, well, why don't you come with me? We could go together. My brother was also there. We'll go together in Yechidus. People go in the family. I say to her, you know what? I had Yechidus by myself. I'd like to have again by myself. You go, Gesundheit. You go, you have a Yechidus. Sometime I think maybe I should have gone, but whatever. That one of the reasons why I should have gone maybe is because I was slated for Yechidus the next night, and it was delayed until the only way we could go in Yechidus was that all the Bachim of Brunois should go together. So we all went together. So it was my first Yechidus Klalis in the Rebbe's room, not in the show.
So Yechidus, it stopped drastically like that? Like there was no warning?
That I think it continues. This was Tisha Mem Aleph. I think that throughout the Chayref of Mem Aleph, there were more Yechidus after that. But it became Yechidus Klalis, and it was just so happened because the Yechidus were delayed and people had a flight, and the only way you could go in Yechidus is if you come with a group tonight, and then you go to the airport or whatever, or tomorrow is your flight, so go tonight, and that was the only. And I guess it turned out to be a good idea, so it continued this way. But the Rebbe many times said that Yechidus Klalis, we get the brachas that are meant for every single one who is there, which means that it includes brachas that you had no idea about asking because you weren't thinking about it. Another person thought about it, and he got the bracha, and you got the bracha.
Yeah.
So it ended up being so much better. Kol panim she was in the Yechidus, and the Rebbe, and for some reason she asked the Rebbe about my continuation of my Chinuch. Just to put in perspective, I'm the third in my family. My older brother was, didn't do limud chol. He was in Brunois, Spitz Chabad, very, very big koch. He's a shliach in the north of France today. My older sister, as a girl, also stopped limud chol by grade 9, and in Besrivke, they had the option on limud kodesh. She's on Shlichus today in Argentina. And I'm the third one. And for some reason, my mother asked the Rebbe if I should do limud chol, or if I should go to Brunois. Then the Rebbe decided to ask her a bunch of questions about me. What do I do in my free time? Do I frequent? The Rebbe spoke in French. Do I frequent the yeshiva during my vacations? And how old I am? How many years do I have left? And then the Rebbe said, using a French slang for the diploma that he wanted me to get, he says I should first get, in France it would be equivalent to a high school diploma, but when you come with here, it's called a bachelor degree. And after that, I should go to yeshiva for a few years.
So the Rebbe wanted you to finish what you started.
Wanted to finish, but all the way, because I could have finished already by grade 9, and then this is a different, you go to high school, and you have to do high school. But and my older siblings didn't, and most of my younger siblings also didn't. And I'm one of the only ones in my family who did it, and that's because the Rebbe said I should get a certain degree, and after that I should go to yeshiva. Whenever I asked the Rebbe myself, then I was very much devastated. I was lost with Tamol, but the Rebbe has his plan, the Rebbe knows. So I asked the Rebbe, why am I supposed to do this? And the Rebbe told me, Kedima, priority. And
what did he ask the Rebbe? What did he ask the Rebbe?
Where am I going to learn this in Mudachol?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So the Rebbe said Kedima, and he named a yeshiva, the most Litvish yeshiva that there is in France. Excellent school. I must say that when I got this answer, I was even more zerbrochen than for the first one. But nonetheless, I felt that it's a shlichus. They were sending me on shlichus. When you're a kid, you have the answer of all the worst problem. Thank God you don't have any problem. But you have the answer in case you have a problem.
Right.
So I figured they have sent me on shlichus. I'm going on shlichus. So whatever. I was in Tanya with the people. What akopani. Doesn't matter. The soif maisa is that whatever shlichus that I did, that I'm doing now in Montreal, which I ran the seminary, which is an official college. So the students who come to us, they get the college degree with credits that are transferable to other universities and so on. And to be in such a position, you had to show that you have something. You have to show that you have some kind of degree. And in Quebec, if you have a degree from France, so that is the whole way that I got where I got was with this studies that the Rebbe told me to do.
So the fact that you're the only one in your family that had that hira from the Rebbe, you can see like how your shlichus, you had a unique shlichus that needed that. So, do you able to see this?
Yes, and I tried other things, by the way. I was a shliach in Staten Island for 3 years. After Koilel, I went to Staten Island on Shlichus. I was working for Rabbi Katzman because I speak Hebrew like an Israeli because I learned 770. So all my friends are Israelis. So I ended up working with the Israelis over there. I was a Rav in a shul. And nothing worked until I got to Montreal. Which, by the way, is connected to another Maaseh. A very interesting story. Too bad I don't have it on screen. I would show you the letter. In Tafshim Mem Gimel, in the summer Mem Gimel, I was head counselor in the day camp, and I wrote the Rebbe, I wrote the Duch. And I received a letter from the Rebbe. The letter is dated Yema Slichas Tafshim Mem Gimel, and is kind of a Klali Prati, Likas Shana Chadasha, like a letter that the Rebbe sends many people who wrote a bracha for the new year. So the Rebbe is giving a bracha for the new year. And my letter was not about the new year, it was the end of camp. I sent a duch, I sent a pan that I made the children write, sent pictures. I received this letter at the end of Cheshvan, Tavshim Mem Dalet. So it's about 2 months after it was written. I got the letter, it was in Benoit. And the Rebbe writes, Ha'avrech oisek betzorke tzibur Michoel Sheichye. So for a bacher to get oisek betzorke tzibur, especially when you're still in yeshiva, is something very strange. I mean, not strange, very rare. Not unusual. Too many. Unusual, thank you. And I so already did. Then the Rebbe says, the Rebbe writes, Haduch, and then in pen yadz ve'apana metzurev boy, and the pan that was included in the duch and the skablu were received, and they will be read at Bezratzen, they will be read at the Tzion. And then, because Shana Chadasha, the whole bracha for the new year. At the end of the letter, Bivracha is typed, and before the signature, the Rebbe writes with a pen, with Ksagat Kodesh, Bivracha lehatzlacha, bechinuch yalde b'nei Yisrael shlita al taras HaKodesh. So the Lashon is also unusual. Yalde Yisrael, what do you mean Yalde b'nei Yisrael?
Children.
Yes, a bracha of success in education of Jewish children, al taras HaKodesh, a proper Jewish education, pure education, and then the Rebbe signed. Here, this is, I would say, the third letter answer that I got from the Rebbe that put me in a shock. I was 18 years old, maybe 19 years old, and I thought that Shlichus means going to a city, you take over the world, you turn around the city, you make a Beis Chabad, and you open school, and this and the other. No, Shlichus. This is before Chabad was printed, And that's the way I understood Shlichus. And this was my dream. This is what I wanted to do. And I saw in this letter as if the Rebbe is directing me towards Chinuch. Give me a bracha. So of course I went to the Mashpia. I ran to Rabbi Nissen with the letter, and I said, Rabbi Nissen, is the Rebbe telling me that I should work on Chinuch, in Chinuch? So Rabbi Nissen looked at the letter and he says, Haduch, well, what duch did you write? I said, a duch about camp. He said, oh, you wrote to the Rebbe about Chinuch, so the Rebbe gave you a bracha on Chinuch. I said, listen, I like your answer, but the Rabbi Milubavitch, this is the Lubavitcher Rebbe talking here. It's not just you wrote, he wrote, right? So what? So he said, don't worry. So I was happy, thinking that maybe my Shlichus is not going to be in Chinuch. And as I said, I tried all kind of different things. When I was a Bacher, I went on Shlichus in, very interesting places, Mecca Shlichus. Being a Frenchie in 1770, by the way, we're not that many as today. Those years, maybe we're a dozen Frenchies.
There were French guests for Tishrei, but not learning.
Oh, thousands, of course. But 770, a whole year in 770, maybe a dozen. And we don't get much privileges. But one privilege we got is that my English-speaking friends went on Mecca Shlichus to Milwaukee. I went to the Caribbean, I went to Africa. Places where they speak French. So I that's where I saw myself. And like I said, after I got married, I went on Shlichus and Tagi. Everything was fine, the Pierre, whatever. But they had a different plan. And it's about 10 years after this letter, 11 years after I got this letter, I ended up in Montreal. And ever since, this is what I'm Moisek is Chinuch. And I don't see myself doing anything else. And I tell people who think that Shlichus and Chinuch is a cop-out. You want to be a shliach, at the same time you want to have fresh baked goods and your kids in the cheder. It's not a cop-out. It's a talent. If you have the talent, the Rebbe chose you to go on that Shlichus. If your talent is to talk to people, to student university, that is a Shlichus. There isn't a lashon in the letter that the Rebbe sent before Yud Shvat of Shin Yud Aleph. This is Hareuyim lezeh, we should go speak in the shuls. Hamuchsharim lezeh, should go and speak to the youth. There is different kishroinus. If you are fit to speak as a rabbi in a shul, that's your job, that's your shlichus. If you are fit, if you are talented to be able to have an influence on the youngsters, that is your shlichus. So basically, shlichus is not necessarily what you want. It is what the Rebbe wants you to do.
Well, what's the lashon? Ilu nitztavinu lachtiv eitzim. If our job would be to chop wood, that's also a shlichus, because a shliach by definition is doing the will and the ratzon of the mishalech. That it's not about your career. It's about fulfilling the shlichus that was given to you. So, maybe dafka if you're doing the shlichus that you didn't think you're going to be doing, you're doing it more for the right reason, for the Mishaleach. So, yeah.
So this is the Maisa. By the way, I was once Geshe Mendel came to Montreal. Geshe Mendel Garelik from Italy, Nava Shalom. He came to Montreal for a chasana. And when I was a bacher, I used to love his farbrengens. I used to hang out over there a lot. So when he was in Montreal, I was happy to drive him here and there, So he asked me, what are you doing here? So I told him the story with the letter. So I told him 10 years later, I understood what the Rebbe wrote in the letter. So he tells me, you're lucky. I have letters 40 years, I still don't understand. What did the Rebbe ask for me? So,
Among Chassidim is brought to you by Chassidische Der Herr. We live in a chaotic world. A world where for us Chassidim, as a seinu, lei ra'inu, we do not have the ability to hear and see the Rebbe on a daily basis. Yet we know that the Rebbe is very much with us, and the Chassidus Chabad is alive and thriving more than ever before. One needs to only tap into it. Chassidische Der Herr provides you and your family with the tools necessary to tap into all of this. Whether it's the monthly magazine, the way it all began, whether it's Der Herr books, Der Herr online content, and so much more. Men, women, and children throughout the world benefit and use these tools on a daily basis. Whether it's children enjoying the children's magazine that comes along with the regular derher, or enjoying the children's podcast, whether it's bachrim in yeshivas receiving the derher, whether it's girls in high schools enjoying their hair club in their local high school. People all over the world and from all walks of life enjoy and utilize these tools and take advantage of it. If you're not already subscribed to the Derher Monthly Magazine, do so today at derher.org. That's derher.org. Derher is a dynamic organization which is committed to continue providing these tools, grow on a constant basis, and do all that we can to help this effort. Baruch Hashem, it takes a lot of resources and finances to make this all happen. You can be part of Derher through your financial support as well, through visiting our website derher.org, or through contacting us to setting up a meeting. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the podcast. Okay, so back to let's move backwards to where we started.
Yes.
About going to the Rebbe and your Shlichus for
Yes.
Yud Shvat. What was that about?
Okay, so Yud Shvat was a Shabbos. Tavshim Mem Dalet, Yud Shvat was a Shabbos. And I very, very much wanted to go to hear the Rebbe daven by the Amid. I'll be honest, the farbrengen of Yud Shvat, probably I could read the Hanochen. You know, we got the printed edition of the farbrengen. Then it took us a week, but farbrengen, I missed it on Shabbos. I could probably
you
catch
sent
up.
that Shlichus from where? From Chaya Mushka?
So what happened is, so when I finished, being that the Rebbe had given me a very short amount of time to go to yeshiva originally,
right.
after
You're only
my
for what? For a
yes,
year?
so I was in Brunoana. I was in Brunoana for summers and for stuff like that. And then I told my father, I'm not going to Brunoana. And my father told me, why you want to go to New York? So I told him, because in New York I'm going to become a lamton. So what am I going to tell him? I thought, father's a smart man. He says, I went to Brunoana my whole life. It turned out okay. So anyways, but I went and I ended up in Chobetere, and then after that,
you asked the Rebbe before?
No, the Rebbe told me I could go to yeshiva after I'm done. That's it. I'm going to yeshiva.
Okay.
And but then I get that the Vedraskin calls me up. He calls me over to his office, and he says that I'm on the list that the Blissen sent, and he wants me to be one of the shluchim. Basically, what happened is that there were a group, 4 French Bachim and 2 not French. 2 Israelis, Moshe Sasankin from Metula and Eli K from Tzfas. And the other 3 were French Bachim. The 4 French Bachim, Reb Nissen put the name. The other 3 came from Brunois. That's what they were. And me, I was whatever. He knew who I was. We put the name. And Taki, Reb Nissen, what does Reb Nissen has with you that he insists you should go there? He said, it's not me. He likes my father. It's not me. Kol panim. The answer came from the Rebbe that we should go, and we went.
So you didn't spend any time. You were there for a year in New York? No, you didn't spend any time there.
I was there a few. Elul Tishrei Cheshvan.
Yeah,
I was there for 3 months. Yeah, and
So
that was also that was very strange. That to go on Shlichus, not even you go on Shlichus. The Rebbe sends you from here, from 70.
Right.
So I guess it was enough time for me to be there. I don't know. Nissen told my father that the whole reason why the Rebbe told me to go and do Limud Chol is so I should come on Shlichus in Brunois, and over there I'll have Ashpah on the Bachim who just came out of high school. Many Bachim over there were from school. New Balit Shuvas and so on. He says, that's why the Rebbe told him to do Limud Chol. I don't know who told him. It could be. But okay, that was Munach by him. It wasn't convincing enough for me. But nonetheless, once the Rebbe said we go. Went on Shlichus. So yes, I was there only then. I was, as I said, on Shlichus Mem Dalet comes Yud Shvat. I wanted to hear the Rebbe daven by the Amid on Shabbos. So I Rabbi Nissen, I say,
So you already had this Chassidish derher, no pun intended. You already had
yes,
such a derher. So this is
yes.
something that you picked up from the Avirah, from being by the Rebbe for those few months. Like, where did you get that conviction that you need to hear the Rebbe down Kabbalah Shabbos?
So the first thing is that, I've been to the Rebbe, I came to the Rebbe every single year since my Bar Mitzvah for Tishrei. And in Tavshim Mem Gimel, I wanted to prepare I wanted to get a room and a locker in 70 and so on. So I also came for Shavuos. And then I went back to take my exams, and then I came back to New York. I went to Brno and then came back to New York. So being by the Rebbe for so many years, even if it's only for Tishrei, makes it that you're not just by the Rebbe for Tishrei. You go to the Rebbe for Tishrei, and that's it. You belong to the Rebbe. That's it. So when you come back, you hang out with the Chassidim. I hang out in Brno. My brother was in Brno then. I was a kid. I was in Brno every other Shabbos. Every time I had vacation from school, whether it is in the summer, in the winter, that's where I went. And farbrengen in Paris also some farbrengen. There was some younger light I became very friendly with when I was already an older bacher. So very Chassidish younger light that live in Paris. And you get this lachluchis, you get it, it comes to you, it comes to you. And my brother was also definitely a huge ashpah when it came to that. Listen, the Chassidishkeit, the dark Chassidus that I got from home, was my father singing nigunim and telling us stories of the Rebbeim and making sure we write a pan to the Rebbe before you Shvat. This was pretty much the extent. Learning Chassidus. So we had all the Sfarim, whatever, But the koch of Rebbe is something that I got, more from, I would say, my older brother, but also the Sviva, being around Chassidim, for sure that, like I said, my father got many letters from the Rebbe, and he wouldn't do anything without asking the Rebbe, and so on. But still, that thing, I need to be by the Rebbe for Yitzhak, this came from the Arum. Okay. I had heard the Rebbe daven by the Amid before in previous years when I was by the Rebbe. Vav Tishrei, I don't remember if Vav Tishrei once for Shabbos. Vav Tishrei had fallen on Shabbos, but I just wanted to hear the Rebbe, how the Rebbe davens on Shabbos. During the week, I heard it, I was there, but on Shabbos, I wanted to hear. So I went to Rabbi Nissen, and I asked Rishus. Rabbi Nissen say, we don't travel in middle of the Zman. You're in the middle of a semester, you don't travel. So I says, not true. There was a goyrel, and the Zochev goyrel is going. That means that there is a possibility of getting reshus. So he said, yeah, the Zochev goyrel is going on everybody's behalf. And that wasn't you, so then you're not going. So I said, listen, it's Shabbos. I'm not going to miss much Seder. Friday, you know what? I'll travel Friday morning. And if you want, it's a winter Shabbos, I'll come back Motzei Shabbos. I'll be back. I'll miss the Friday Seder and the Chassidus Sunday morning, and maybe the Seder Motzei Shabbos. So he saw I was very intent on going, and he told me, and what happens if you get to 770, and the Rebbe walks into shul and he looks at you and he tells you, I sent you there. What are you doing here? So when he told me those words, I know that, the pen and paper were ready for him to write to the Rebbe. This Bacher went with that Rishus, So that's it.
He's going to report you.
Definitely, because that's the way the Anhale was working. I don't know if it still happens this way, but that's the way the Anhale was going all the years. They ever wanted to know a report. So I said, this is, that being sent on Shlichus and you're going and doing your own thing. So I decided to stay. But of course, being that after that I spent from the summer of Mem Dalet until Tafshin Nun Dalet. Actually, I went on Shlichus to start Nalet Tafshin Nun Beis. Erev Rosh Hashanah Tafshin Nun Gimel. So until then, Lo Yamush V'Tocha Oyel, I was in 770 day and night the whole time. So I got many tefillas where they have Davin, Shabbos, Choil, so on.
So maybe talk to me about your years in 770. I want to. That sounds like it's Michoel Bacher's years is the Smetana, and then your years by the Rebbe. So what was going on? What was your experiences then when you were learning in 770?
You know, if you ask anybody in my generation what were the best years in Lubavitch, they'll tell you the mems. You know, if you ask somebody, generation before me, that they're the lamets. Somebody says, what? Oh, it depends all the year. And the answer is very simple. The year you spent by the Rebbe was the best year in Lubavitch. That's it. Because after all, what is Lubavitch? It's you being by the Rebbe. That's it. What do you know? Anything else? So definitely the mems, the years we were in 770 were very, very significant and packed. Went through the whole Din HaNatzach, the whole Mishpat first, the whole anguish that went through it, the whole Simcha of Din HaNatzach itself on the day of the Teves. And Hanachas Even Apina, 770, the different inyanim that took place also, like from Beshvat, was something definitely very historic. Nun Aleph, the Rebbe staying with the Zaydin Kapata a whole week. You know, those we're living times that were very, very clearly unusual and something very significant is happening. I can't really pinpoint on I don't know, what should I say about my times in 70? I don't know. I could tell you that first of all, when you're in 770, the clock is not your watch. The clock is what's happening by the end. You meet somebody, say, I'll see you after Mincha. I'll give it to you now. Give it back to me after Ma'ariv. Like our sprach, that was all about after the Rebbe, after Kriya, when the Rebbe came to Kriya, you meet people, your whole time frame, you know that this is the time, no Yimalet, you are going to be in 770 with the Rebbe. So our clock somehow was the whole time was around the time we're going to be with the Rebbe. That was one thing I would say about the timing 770. A very, very a very special moment also was every day when in the winter when the Rebbe came in from Ma'ariv in middle of the Seder. I learned upstairs in Zal. And the Zal upstairs was as packed as it is today, not that many, maybe 40 guys, 50 guys.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's a limited capacity.
That's the space. And, we sit a whole day without our hat and jacket. We come in, you fold your jacket, you put your hat, you hang your hat, and then you open the Gemara or whatever it is that you're learning. And then, with Tamal come the Zman, in the winter, in the Mems, the Rebbe came to daven Ma'ariv at the Zman. Very, very often, they went home early. So in the middle, you're sitting there, and then you see the door of Gan Tachten opens. So right away, put on your hat and jacket, stand up, and the Rebbe comes in. It's right in front. Davening about, 5 feet from you, 6 feet from you. And this in itself was a very, very special. I could tell you one thing, talking about the Derher, is that many of the Bachim, when it came time that Rebbe would walk in, they would run out and dive in the hallway. The door to the hallway next to the Amid, next to the Chazan, was always open. So we dive in the Rebbe's minyan, but if you felt, for whatever reason, you didn't really put in all your effort in learning, and so on, or you didn't, whatever, you didn't feel fit to be in the Rebbe's Dames, so to speak. So many guys would go and stay and daven in the hallway instead. Because the intensity of being in the Rebbe's Dames, the Rebbe is walking, is right in front of you, davening. Downstairs, you don't want to be Mizrach, you could be Ma'ariv, you know what I mean? But upstairs was a very different hergesh.
You could feel the Rebbe's presence.
Yeah. And they would look at people, look around. Yeah, for sure that, the 3 weeks of the Mishpat where we had to take turn, we couldn't go, we didn't have Rishus to go every day to the court. Number one, because you're not going to pack the whole room. And number two, because without learning, you have to learn. Of course, some of my very good friends were there every day. Somehow, yeah, of course. It's, when somebody wants to tell the Rebbe, Memune gitze chanaitze. You find a way.
They gave themselves jobs, I guess.
Yeah. But the few times that I went, that I got to go, was also felt, seeing, for example, Mentlik sitting there in the front with other members of the Chabad, not necessarily understanding what's happening, but saying Tilim. You see them sitting over there, seriously saying Tilim the whole time. You see that they're taking it very. This is the Rebbe's. The Mishpat is involving the Rebbe, and they take it very seriously. They're working on it very, standing there saying Tilim. Many of us were there because we wanted to be curious.
Right. A lot is said about that during that whole period of the from when the Rebbe first spoke about the Svarim and the court case, the Mishpat. There was like a certain feeling in Lubavitch, and I can imagine by the Bachrim in particular. And then on Hey Tevis, when the good news came that Dan Natzach, that like burst, that relief. So maybe you could describe a little bit what was that? What were the Bachrim? The Bachrim of the heartbeat at the end of the day, right? So what were the Bachrim feeling? Like that?
Yeah.
What was going on during that?
First of all, hearing in the Rebbe's talk about the situation.
You were there. Yubis Tammuz Memhei.
No, I was in camp. But right after Shabbos, I got a phone call. I was in camp in France. I got a phone call right after Shabbos from my friend Moshe Son. He told me what has happened. It's funny because I left right after Chav Chesivan. So when I left, all we knew that there was a yichidus of, I didn't know was called Agudas Chabad on that day. So Shiva Tuvei 7 elder Chassidim. That's the way on that day.
So
that's
the first
how we
inkling
heard
that anyone knew that something was happening was the fact that the Rebbe called the people these Chassidim into Yichidus.
For the layman, for people like me, yes. There were those people who were more involved. For example, Chaim Boch, William. Those people who were involved with setting up the cameras and everything else. So for sure, they knew a lot more. Of course, I don't think they spoke. As a matter of fact, even the Bachrim, who were the most, the Yedid Dava, those who knew all the secrets and had the intel on every situation, nobody was talking. We knew something was happening, and then I left. I had to go to camp, so I left after this event. We know something's going to happen. We're going to hear about it on Yud Tammuz, and then I asked, call me. What was this all about? When we heard this,
so you knew that the Rebbe was going to speak about Yud Tammuz.
This was said, yeah.
Because the Rebbe said in the Yichidus that if nothing happens, I'm going to speak about Yud Tammuz. Maybe that part leaked.
So that part leaked, but nobody knew what it was about. None. I mean, as far at least Anashim Kerekenu, nobody knew what it was about. When this broke, and then when we heard about what the Rebbe said, and when you heard the Shlichus, the way the Rebbe spoke, it was partial pain. It was very painful. And of course, even then we realized that what the Rebbe told someone. We made the banko. It was the whole year on Nisis. Everything was, it's true. Besides for the time of the Mishpat, the time waiting after the Mishpat, it was very, very tense. It was very tense. When the news came, the Natzach came, it was actually, like you say, well, the first time was Gimel Kislev. Before the Mishpat already, it was already a great simcha. I'll tell you about Yud Gimel Kislev, the second, Yud Gimel Kislev Tovshim Mem Zayin.
You're saying a year after.
The year after.
So Yud Gimel Kislev Mem Vav is when they came out that the Rebbe does not need to testify. So you're talking about the next year.
The next year, yeah. So already on that day, by Mincha, before Mincha, after Mincha, we're singing the Natzach. This is really the first time we're saying the Natzach. In that nigun, the way the Natzach was Yud Gimel Kislev Mem Vav.
So this
after
is right.
Mincha.
Mem Vav or Mem Zayin?
Mem Vav. This was Mem Vav. Mem Vav after the original, yeah. After we heard that the Rebbe doesn't have to go to court, this nigun came up, did a Natzach. And that night was a farbrengen in 770 upstairs in the Zal. The farbrengen was planned. It was a Yudalit Kislev farbrengen organized by Meir Arlik. Before it turned to be downstairs, but then in Memvav was upstairs. And it was mamish asuda, like a farbrengen, like Meir knew what to do. And the speakers, whatever, but on the side of the bima, on the side of the chazan, of the amid, there's one table over there, right near that door to the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
And Yudel Krinsky and Avraham Shem Tov came to sit down. Late at night. And then, Chevra went right away to sit around, and they said a few things about what was going on then. They revealed a few things that they were told, whatever. But I remember one tziyur, very interesting. Avraham Shem Tov had Sed L'chaim, and he screams to the other side of the room to Meir Arlik, and he says, "Was bist du nichter? Was bist du oibenen wie am Echuten? Why are you still sober? You're sitting at the head table like father of the bride, because he's celebrating the Rebbe's Kislev. Yeah. So this was, you say things that you remember from farbrengen from 20 years before, and this is 40 years before. I remember this outburst. Was bist du nichter? This was like, this, like I'm saying, already the first relief kind of thing from that tension was Yud Gimel Kislev.
People were a little bit besimcha.
Yeah. And then, of course, Yud Gimel Kislev the year after.
So someone then, a bacher then by that farbrengen made up the Natzach, the song?
No, it's not true. We sang the Natzach after Mincha.
So it was before that?
It was before that. We sang the Natzach after Mincha in that nigun, the way we sing the Natzach. That night, by the way, there was a chasana, Itche Springer's son, got married to Ber Lazar's sister, to Moshe Lazar's daughter, if I'm not mistaken. That was the chasana, and over there, Ber Lazar started the Natzach. The whole chasana over there was the Natzach. Mm-hmm. And it was in the evening after Yud Gimel Kislev. Then, whatever, we went 770, and then came the farbrengen. Versteht sich that a year later, when Yud Gimel Kislev came about, we were...
You say in the first year?
The first year, yeah.
Commemorating, whatever, the first year of...
Yeah, the first anniversary of the original Gimel Kislev. It was before the Natzach, but it was Yud Gimel Kislev. So we had to farbrengen. And we were maybe 20 bachim. By the way, I read some reports, the way it was written, based on information from Meiner Agut Chaver, and it wasn't, the way it's printed is not not accurate. I'll tell you Master Shehaya because I was there myself. We're maybe 20, 25 bachir sat down to farbrengen somewhere around midnight. We started farbrengen, Gimel Kislev. And the Rebbe started to sing Yakiru V'Yedu. That night, started singing Yakiru V'Yedu because that's the idea of Gimel Kislev, that the whole world should know that the Rebbe is a melech, and the melech is not subjected to any testimony, and he runs the show. So you say Yakiru V'Yedu, and then somebody came up with a was Gimel Kislev.
Was getroffen
Gimel Kislev is what we sang. Yeah. Today they sing was is the Yom Tov Gimel Kislev. Was getroffen Gimel Kislev. We sang. By the way, the mashke was a few bachim. The mashke was gone. Was finished. I came back from Shlichus in the Caribbeans, and I had in my room. I had a desk in my room.
In the summer, you were
summer Memvav. Yeah,
you're in Caribbean. Okay.
Summer Memvav was in Caribbean. Also an interesting story. Remind me. I'll tell you something about it. So I bought over there a gallon of Crown Royal that comes with on a stand that you pour it because it's too heavy, Okay. And I said, I was with my chaver, I said, I'm buying a bottle for Didan Natzach. And I had this bottle on my desk. It was a discussion piece, a discussion starter, Oh, wow, don't touch it. It's for Didan Natzach. Anyways, we're sitting over there, Gimel Kislev, talking mashke. That's it. So one of my friends sitting next to me, he became a mechutin. It's a Katman. I gave him the keys to my room. And I said, my bottle over there, bring it over. So you give it Kislev. They are not so. So he brought the bottle. I remember saying, he sold the Bacher full of his spiluses. Oh, don't you cover the melech. This is how you respect the king, by bringing a 1 gallon bottle of mashke. Anyway, so this bottle took us for a while.
That's a Crown Royal is
Crown Royal.
It's Malchus.
Yeah, Crown Royal is Malchus, and this was the mevinus that we had then. If I bring today, I had in.
I'm old enough to remember Crown Royal being the mashke in Lubavitch, either Smirnov or Crown Royal. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. In the storage room of my shul, I have about 20 bottles. Nobody wants to touch them.
Yeah, exactly.
But them also, that was it. Kolpanim, about 6 in the morning, people start to come to daven. And Professor Brownover is mentioned in those Yomanim, but let me tell you exactly what happened. Professor Brownover comes over and he tells me, what's going on? What's his height? Because this was Leil Yud Gimel Kislev. So what do you mean? You don't know? Yud Gimel Kislev. So what's Yud Gimel Kislev? So I told him, the Rebbe, Mishpat, this, that, and the whole thing. All right. So, okay. Zog l'chaim. Okay. So l'chaim. 6 a.m. Look. Later on, he was standing around, right behind us, whatever. We're in the center of the shul. And somebody came in and he says, what are the Bachim doing here? 6 o'clock. What's it? So Brownover says, you don't know. Give a Kislev. And then, yeah.
As the Bachim are spreading the word.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that we weren't going to go to sleep because it was a Yom HaKriya. I mamish don't remember if it was a Monday or a Thursday. You could probably look it up today on Google. But it was Yom HaKriya. So we're not going to, it's 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, but okay, because then if you go to sleep now, you're going to miss the Rebbe coming for Kriya and getting an Aliyah, and out of a question, right? So we stayed and we continued and whatever. The Rebbe came in, the way the Seder was, the Rebbe would come into the Zal. First, the Rebbe would go into his office, and then he would come out with Gattel. He would stand next to the door. There was his table, and then there was just a standard top that was on top of the table. And only there would be
sit on the table.
Yeah. It wasn't a full stand. It was a regular table, the table with the checkered from Yankel Lipsker. And there was a standard top with a few prongs at the bottom, and there were 4 holes on the table that, like this, it stands and it doesn't move. So the Rebbe would be there. There would be a chumash and the tilim, and the Rebbe would follow Kiryas Torah with the chumash, and then after that, while we say Asher V'Letziyim, until the Sefer Torah comes back, the Rebbe would say tilim, and after Kaddish and Yalelu, and the Sefer Torah came back, the Rebbe would leave the room. We're in the middle of davening, so we never sang when the Rebbe came in. We never sang when the Rebbe came out. This is in the middle of Shachis. But a few of us, I wasn't in a matzav I could put on tefillin because al pidin I don't think I was allowed to daven. So we were there for the Rebbe's aliyah, and when the Rebbe left, we started to sing Yakir V'Yedu. The Rebbe turned, he looked, he smiled, he went on.
Smiled?
Yeah, I heard a shmur that the Rebbe asked Label what they're saying. Then somebody told me, no, it wasn't that day. It was a time when the Rebbe went to the car and was singing outside, and the Rebbe asked what it is. And when they told him, he smiled, called upon him. This was I don't remember ever that we sang when the Rebbe was coming for the tefillas. I mean, in the middle of davening in Shachis. He asked me, would I do that again today? For sure not. But after a lot of mashke, and then, like you said, it was the tension of that time. Was like Hayom Tov, yalla. But whatever. If we they have acknowledged it one or another is doch good. Yeah. So this was Yud Gimel Kislev.
So that was this is Yud Gimel Kislev,
So
and
less than a month before it is.
Right, and then right after this is the prelude and
Yes.
the Hakdama to the explosion of Hey Tevis.
Yes. We knew for a few days before, for some reason, I don't know. I remember I have a good friend, Ruben Matzov in France, so he had a
He's your age?
with me.
He's older than you.
No,
right?
he's older than me. Ruben is older than me, but he's one of those Rebbe that I mentioned to you before that I got the Lachluchis from when I was in France. It's Pashit Mechai to go stam. I would say Shabbos, go over to his house, Lechaim, and then ends up many hours later with a few good stories and Pashit filling the inyan. So I had a phone in my room, so I would call him all the time, anytime there is news. So I remember hearing, this time I heard it from Yaski, I don't know, but a few days before, that the judge is busy right now with a verdict. The judge is preparing a verdict. So a few days before, it was end of Hanukkah, I called Abuba and I told him, the judge is busy with it. The Natzach is imminent. We don't know when, but this is what's happening. And Taki, it was a few days later, it was the Natzach. Let me tell you something about Verstetzach. Everybody knows, everybody saw the videos. Yossi Piamenta was davening Shachis. This was, around 11 o'clock. And we started to dance outside. So he finished Shachis, he went to his car, he took out his guitar, and he started to play in front of the Rebbe's office, in front of the Rebbe's window. Started to dance over there, and more people came. Station wagon pulled over, opened up the trunk, and there were cases of mashkin. Station wagon went onto the parkway, like after the service lane. Cases of mashke went out. People were saying Chaim. And I have a friend who was going to France that day because he was getting married on Thursday. So he stayed till the last minute so he could get the Siddur from the Rebbe the day before he travels. And he was getting the Siddur on Hetevis. And I went to him and I was like, you're going to be the first civilian, not part of Maskiris, not part of the Mishpat, like first Chassid. You're going to see the Rebbe. You come out, you tell us what's sitzach, Right? He came out after a while, and he tells me the Rebbe looked very serious. So I thought, I don't know what you're talking about. You are very serious. Finally, we're waiting for this day for years, and you living. You're sad, you're just serious, you're depressed. So when you're depressed, you see everybody around you depressed. You know what you're talking about. He says, I know, I've seen the Rebbe before. The Rebbe looked very, very serious. I don't know what's going on. But Lepoyel, we saw the Rebbe come in. You see it in the video. So we were there by Bincha. When in the front, I was right there, Mamish by Mizrach. Nobody was nichter, and we were singing, and the Rebbe came in, and the Rebbe didn't look. The Rebbe didn't encourage the singing.
Yeah,
we expect it's not what we expected, so to speak, right? I realized maybe this Bacher was right, and Lachar Maaseh, we know the story. The Rebbe immediately asked if there would be an appeal, and when he was told there would be an appeal, the Rebbe closed the door. The Rebbe was turned very serious. Even the Maaseh with the Tachanun,
Yeah, the Rebbe started saying.
The Rebbe started saying, but there was a chassan. It was true, there was a chassan. And so Lepoyel, we saw that it was very serious. But yet the Rebbe said a sikha, and then...
On the other hand, in the sikha, the Rebbe said very strong asis about what happened that day.
Yeah. Did the Rebbe turn it to Yom Tov? I think the Rebbe turned it to Yom Tov L'Shana Haba. It was the next year. It was Tavshim Memches. It was a Shabbos. The Rebbe said that this is just the Rebbe linked in that sikha to Chanukah and Purim. The Rebbe spoke about Pirsum Nisa, Tavshim Memches. The Rebbe started the farbrengen by saying that as it is was misparsem in a way of Pirsum Nisa, and then what happened last year, and then the Rebbe says the Shana Haba Kevom, which is just like Mamish. The Rebbe established it as a Yom Tov. We understand that this was after the appeal was won, and this was after the whole thing was over. And that take was the real Yom Tov. But nonetheless, even Tafshim Mem Zayin, we dance every night, and they didn't stop us until Yudalev.
Right. The Rebbe said a sikha every night.
The Rebbe said a sikha. And then sikha, the Rebbe said it was a rotzen. The Rebbe said it was a rotzen. I mean, the Rebbe asked to write the pan, whatever you want to write, and anyways, we're not going to read it, so don't worry about writing exactly what you want. It's going to go Besara Shemaima. There was no fax system. It's not like you send an email today. I remember...
There's no fax, Mem Zayin?
Mem Zayin, Yechidim had fax.
Maskiris didn't have a fax?
No, Maskiris didn't have a fax. Binyamin Klein had a fax in his basement, in Mem Zayin, and that fax actually belonged to Yosef Gutnik, and he bought it and he put it by Binyamin, so Maskiris should have a fax. Binyamin had asked me a few times to go pick up some letters from there and bring him. So sometime, in between two taisves, I would need air, so I would go into Maskiris and no, Binyamin, ma kore, ma chadash, so he said, go to my basement, get me some these faxes. That machine was the size of the copy machine of the 90s. It's the size of a table.
Yeah.
It's huge. That was the fax. Then in Mem Zayin. And I don't know what the capacity, how much it could take. So for people from all over the world to send it, everybody had to find a different tachbula, one way or another. My friend Mendy Azimov, today at Czech in Paris, he was in Oletere then. And his father, Mule, Alav Shalom, had a huge following. And of course, I would assume somewhere around 1,000 people who had to send a fax. So you should get to the Rebbe before it goes to the Oyer. So then, as we all know, everybody, especially the Americans, Frenchies come to the Rebbe by the thousands. How do they come to the Rebbe? They have to fly. So Mule had a special deal with their friends that when the people came from the Beis Chabad, or when Beis Chabad called Air France for a ticket, there was a special deal. So he used his connection then, and he took all the panim that people sent. He took them to the central office of Air France in Paris, and he sent it to the office of Air France in Manhattan. And Mendy, his son, went to Manhattan. And he picked up the panim and brought it to the Rebbe. This is how much of a trip you had to do to get faxes. Yeah, this was a very significant thing.
One of the integral components of being a chassid are the Chassidische Yom Tovim and Yom Pagra. Whether it's Hey Tevis, Yud Shvat, Yud Aleph Nisan, or Gimel Tammuz. These days give us an opportunity to connect with our Rabbeim, to connect with each other, and be better Chassidim. What is the story behind each of these days? How did the Rebbe commemorate and celebrate these days? And most importantly, what are the lessons, the takeaways, and the action items Hamaisa Hua Ikr needed for each of these days? All of this and much, much more are answered in the new set recently published by Der Herr. Our Days is a journey through the Chabad calendar in story, meaning, and practice. With over 700 beautiful, glossy pages with elevated content, beautiful, beautiful photographs, you, your family, and friends will enjoy and live with each Chassidische Yom Tov. This book is a must for every Lubavitcher home, for every shul, for every school. It is a perfect gift item. This will not collect dust. It will be used day after day, month after month, year after year. You can have this set. Go to derher.org/our days. Order your set today and start living with the Chassidische Yom Tov. So I want to go back a little bit to, you mentioned this, something about the American Shlichus that you had to the Caribbean.
Yeah. So actually, it's a very interesting story, and I'll start from the end. Okay, I'll start from the beginning. Tavshim Vav, I had planned to go on American Shlichus to two French islands in the Caribbean, Guadeloupe and Martinique. And at the same time that me and a friend were planning it, there's another two Bachim were planning the same thing. Also two French Bachim, they're planning the same union. So then when we're discussing it, we decided, let's go together. One of them was a chassan. One of my friends was a chassan. He says he won't go. He has to get ready for his wedding. And so we're going to be three chevre. And the three of us were going to France for July to do camp. And we figured we finish camp. In France, camp was only 1 month. So we'll go make a shlichus in August on the second part of the summer. So we made plans to print a Tanya over there and so on. So each one had, took a job raising money to print a Tanya. That was my job. And, getting mezuzahs, they got the Sfarim, whatever it is. We went to France, and then my two friends decided to go straight from Paris to the Caribbean rather than come to New York. And I said, it's about half of, and I want to be by the Rebbe for half of. I don't know what it is with me and wanting the Rebbe to daven b'damid.
It's a recurring story.
Yeah, but this one was a weekday. I want to be by the Rebbe for half of. By the way, half of is the one time in which you get to hear the Rebbe very, very good. You get to be very, very close. There's actually a picture. I have a picture of the Rebbe davening mincha, picture Shachis also, and I'm there. Mamish right on the side. Chafav, everybody's.
It's a small Yud Shvat, Tishrei, Vav Tishrei, and Tishrei.
Yeah.
Chafav, it was a time at the Rebbe davening for the Ummah, but less of a crowd.
Right, because the Bachim were in camp or in Mecca Shlichus, the Yingelai, the Balabatim during the country, and people didn't come usually. Not many people came for Chopper. So it was a small crowd, and we were able to be close, hear the Rebbe very well. So
There were Chassidim that did. Geshe Mendel and
Yeshe Mendel,
these type of people, yeah.
Lebel Raskin,
You've been asking.
yeah, always did. Yeah. So good. So I decided I'm going for Chavav to the Rebbe, and then next day, whatever, 2 days later, I'll join you. So I get to the Rebbe, I get to New York a few days before Chavav, and my friends call me up and they tell me, "Listen, we've been there for a few days. We did we covered all the ground. We saw everything there is to see, and you don't need to come."
We're already kavish.
Yeah, that's it. We
conquered, we're done.
Okay. So I said, yeah, you conquered one, but there is a second island. I said, look, we spoke to the people here. They say there isn't that much work to do there. There aren't that many Yidden, so don't bother coming. So it's a Kriuksiv, again, I guess third wheel. Who needs you? Whatever. Okay. I say, okay, well, what's with the money for the Tanya? Don't worry, we'll cover the Tanya. So I tell them, I said, listen, I when I booked my ticket, the travel agent told me that I have to stop in an island called St. Martin. Today, St. Martin is very famous, but I've never heard. There's a shliach there, yeah. I've never heard of St. Martin before. The travel agent told me you have a stopover in St. Martin. From France, they have direct flights. But from New York, they didn't have, to Martinique or to Guadeloupe. So you have to stop in St. Martin. So I said, Bashkacha Pratis, I heard about that. That means that maybe I have something to do there. So they said, stay put. We're going to find out. With the people over here, yeah, good. So they called me back and they said, here is the phone number of the Rosh HaKol, the president of the community. He's a lawyer. He is going to show you around. There's a small community. Adarabba, go there. Okay, so I had to go to Anholet to tell them change of plan. And I went to the office of Vadav Sasiches. Over there is where they prepared the plate for the Sharblat of the Tanya. Because if you print the Tanya, you needed to have the Shah had the name of the place where it's printed. So you can't just take Stam Tanya. Each Tanya was assigned a number. Print number, this one is Shin Yud Zayin.
Right.
Anyway, so I went over there and I said, they took care of Guadeloupe and Martinique. I'm going to St. Martin. Tanya was printed there. Okay, good. They prepared the papers. I wrote to the Rebbe the whole story, change of plan, and I'm going there instead. I got an answer, Askir Latzir. The Rebbe will mention Badoy. And I went back to my friend who was getting married and I said, Adarabba, this is your last chance to go make a Shlichus. You're getting married. You're going Shlichus, but make a Shlichus is your last chance. Come with me. So he said, okay. So I said, fine, you're Italian. Menachem Haddad, you're Italian. There are a few Gvirim over here that are Italian. You go get some money for the tickets and we thought, okay. So
what they did, there's no payment from Merkez for
there was
tickets?
First of all in the MEMS, it was very different. Mecca Shlichus was very when you went to all those places in America, yeah, it was covered. When you went to further places, it didn't happen. I remember Moshe Kaplaski Rosham told me once, he says, we don't send the Mizrach HaRochik, because it was another French place I wanted to go to, and told me, we don't send to Mizrach HaRochik. Then I asked about this place, he says, it's a French territory, it has to do with the French Shluchim. So the French Shluchim said to the French Shliach, who was who took ownership of this island 5,000 kilometers away from him, but this is Shetach, he was masking we go, but he wasn't going to pay. So we had to cover for it. Okay, so me and my friend went, and from the airport we went straight to the lawyer's office. We had his address, his name, straight to the lawyer. And secretary tells us he's away. He's on vacation for 2 weeks. I said, yeah, we're here for 2 weeks, so then there's nothing. Where are we going to go? So, okay, we go out, we take a taxi, we go to a hotel. I figured, growing up in France, if you want to know where to find a Jew, you ask a guy. They'll tell you who's Jewish. So I asked the guy at the hotel, who's a Frenchman. I tell him, do you know any, in French, a nice way of saying Jewish? It's not Juif, it's Israelite, which means Israelite. So he heard me say...
Juif is a derogatory?
Juif could be as not as nice. Today we say it was a Juif, but then used to say Israelite. I said, do you know any Israelite? He said, yeah, there is a guy who has a supermarket. He's Israeli. I go there, we go right away, and we ask, where's the bus? The bus is in the back. But then we see a guy, big guy with a mustache, a bit dark. And he says, Shalom. He says, Shalom. I say, מאיפה אתה בארץ? Where are you from in Israel? He tell me, in Kalkilia. He's a Palestinian. He was not an Israeli. But for the Frenchie over there, they're all the same, Israeli. Okay, toda rabba, and we left. And we don't know why we're here for 2 weeks. The only contact we have is away. Those the sign. So I told my friend, Dr. Dalit, just 2 years before that, the Rebbe spoke about printing Tanyas all over the world. And the Rebbe said that the idea of printing a Tanya all over the world is because it's a Fatzas Mayonis. The wellspring itself is being printed in the place. Not just the water, not going to learn Chassidus there only, but you're going to bring the Mayan. I say, why we are making Shlichus? For Fatzas Mayonis. Let us print the Tanya. Let's go. Find the printer. The printer says, yeah, I could do it in 2 weeks. I said, no. We're living in 2 weeks. And I see the guy was wearing a t-shirt that had a mention of some type of godliness. I told him, listen, let me tell you about this book. It was a big rabbi. When he saw the book, he says, how could it be a big God contains a small book? Now you want to print this book in your print house? And the guy said, oh yeah, I do it today. I start today. Anyways, we stayed over there till he starts making upset. It wasn't coming. Took time. As soon as we walked out of the printer, somebody who's driving, short stops. Guy jumps out of the car, he says, מה אתם עושים פה? אתם חב"ד? כן חב"ד. הרבי שלח אתכם? Yeah, הרבי שלח אותם. Get in the car. He says, get in the car, there's somebody who wants to talk to you. We get in the car.
He wasn't kidnapping you?
No, this guy's mamish like you could tell, mamish Ayid. We go in the car, and he tells us that there is a man who now lives in Guadeloupe, the bigger island, who heard that we are coming. And he asked me to go around and look for you because he wants to talk to you. So we're going to this man's office. And he dials the phone, and this guy tells us, what are you doing here? So we're doing it. The Rebbe sent us here. So he said, the Rebbe sent you here. Is it because of the letter that I wrote to him? So yeah, that's why. I said, wow, this was 6 months ago. So I said, no, okay, answer you. But what was it? The Rebbe didn't tell us the details. So maybe you want to fill us in.
You guys are just saying.
We're bluffing. Yeah, just bluffing. The Rebbe sent me because he wrote the letter. How do I know? I'm sure it's true.
Right.
But so they didn't tell me why. So he says 6 months ago he was on a boat. He went fishing, and the boat capsized, and he felt he was going to drown. And in the water while drowning, he says, Elokim, if you save me, ani chozer b'tshuva. That's it. I go back to religion. And the Eibishter, took care of him, and he saved him, right? But the guy's stuck. He has a promise. He has to do tshuva. He doesn't know what to do. So he says, I wrote to the Rebbe a letter, and I told him that I want to do tshuva. And he sends shluchim all over the world. Please send shluchim to St. Martin, so I could know what to do. So I was surprised. I made the Rebbe such an offer and didn't answer me. I said, what are you talking about? He didn't answer you. He didn't answer you in the letter. He answered in person. He sent us here. After that, I felt a little bad. So I explained to him, the Rebbe didn't tell us anything. But Rabbi Shluchim Lamokem, Rabbi Drachim Lamokem. The Rebbe doesn't have to call me in his office and tell me I received a letter from a Jew. And the Rebbe made it that the travel agent told me the recent Martin. My good friend told me, please don't hang out with us. And this whole thing came together, and we're here. Anyways, this guy Taki became full and so on. But just to tell you the rest of the story, which is amazing. I mean, after that, by the way, this Israeli guy who took us to his car, took us to every single Jew in the island. Everyone. We went to the in the Duch, I wrote to the Rebbe everything. I wrote to the Rebbe in the Duch that the whole story, how we met this guy and what he told us about the Rebbe, and I just told the Rebbe that, and we explained to him that Arbe Drachim Lamokim, and the Rebbe found a way to send us here. The Rebbe answered to the Duch, Niskabel V'tach Haskir Alatziyah. Anyways, fast forward 30 years. A few years ago, Gimel Tammuz was a Shabbos. And I have a klal. If Gimel Tammuz is a Shabbos, I come to the Rebbe on Friday, and I drive back to be Shabbos with my Oilam. Because if it's in a weekday, nobody's there. Everybody comes to the Rebbe, everybody goes to travels. But if it's a Shabbos, I have to farbrengen with my people.
You have a shul of Anash.
I have a shul of Anash, yes. Interesting stories about that shul. This one is the first Lubavitcher shul in Canada, Nusach Ha'ari. It was established by the Rebbe's great uncles, Lavut, in Tavish Ayin Hei.
The great uncles or like whatever?
The Rebbe's the sons of the
Kavnaki.
Of the Kavnaki, yeah, the two sons. Frierdiker Rebbe actually asked them for the Kisvei Yad to print it. Mm-hmm. So they were basically Rebbe Simcha's uncles, two brothers. They established the shul. And I'll tell you a few interesting things about that later. We have the time. Kol panim, Mashul shul of Anash. So I figured I have to farbrengen with the Oilam. So I stayed for. I went to the Rebbe. I drove straight from the Oyel on a Friday afternoon. I was listening to farbrengens, and I felt very, very, lack of a better word, bamacht. I felt unsettled. I felt very uncomfortable. What am I doing there? Why I am not by the Rebbe for Gimel Tammuz? Fine, I have a Shlichus. I have to deal with the Oilam. But still, I didn't feel good. Like, I want to be with the Rebbe. I'm with the Rebbe. I want to be in the Adamis. Anyways, on Friday afternoon, when I get a phone call from a group of Meshech Chabad who said, would you be able to come and give us a speech for Gimel Tammuz? So I said, okay, fine. Before Mincha, I'll come in. I'll say the speech. So part of my speech over there is to tell them, I told them the story. This story that I told you about Mekeh Shlichus. Why did I tell them the story? Because I said, the Rebbe, you are where the Rebbe wants you to be. Amol, the Rebbe wanted to send shluchim, you had to call them up and you had to say, you go there. Today, the Rebbe is telling you, you need to be there. That's where you need to be. And I said, today, even after Gimel Tammuz, there's no question that the Rebbe is sending his shluchim exactly where they have to be because he wants them to be there. So from that perspective, we're here for Gimel Tammuz, but we're here because the Rebbe wants us to be here. And I told him the story exactly that the Rebbe wanted me to be in St. Martin in the summer of Tashim Vav because that Jew needed it. As I'm saying the story, there's a lady who gets up and she tells me, do you remember the name of that person? I said, of course I do. His name is Sylvain Ada. She says, that's my husband's uncle. She tells me, I knew the part of the story because he had told the story that he was going to drown And he made a promise that he's going to do tshuva, and he was saved, and he did tshuva. 2 days in Eretz Yisrael. He has a long beard. He learns in kollel half a day, and so on and so forth. But he never said anything about the letter to the Rebbe. So I was blown away. I was like, number one, this is the Rebbe telling me, you feel bad that you're in Montreal on Gibel Tammuz. I'm here. I'm part of your story here. And I was very happy that, sometimes you tell a story and somebody upschlags you. Over here was a support, a confirmation of the story. So I told her, I said, this is unbelievable, because this is telling us again how the Rebbe wanted me to tell you this story, so you could know the rest of the story. And please send him my regards. Anyways, the next day on Sunday morning, I get a phone call from the husband of this woman who says, I called my uncle this morning, and I didn't want a phone call. I wanted to see him, so I FaceTime so I could see his reaction. I told him the story, and his jaw fell to the ground. And he said that he has never told this story to anybody, ever. Only to one guy. So he says, now that you know, let me tell you the rest. And he says that he wrote 8 pages letter to the Rebbe. His whole entire life, what he did until now, and then how he ended up, and so on and so forth. So this was, one of my, I would say, first significant Shlichus that I saw the Rebbe's involvement in everything. And today, this is very, very negia for today. Young shluchim who never saw the Rebbe begashmias, who are going on Mesus Nefesh. They're going far away. This became the Shlichus. And sometimes they may ask themselves, who sent me? The Shliach Rashi of the state sent me, the Rebbe. Did I decide to find a job? This is my career. What is it? No, the Rebbe picked you because the Rebbe wanted you to be there. He didn't have to tell you anything. And this is the way it was. Chaim Chayus in the very good years. Man, it's the best year of Lubavitch. This is still the way it was going on.
And you're saying that this is the same thing that's happening today.
Exactly. When somebody is going on Shlichus today, it is not because his father happened to be a Shliach in that area and he kept the spot for 25 years for him. There was no Jews there until he got married. That's not the reason. The reason why he's there now after 25 years of his father being there is because that's the time the Rebbe wanted you to be there.
And how does this translate to someone that's not an official shliach?
Well, the Rebbe said many, many times, especially in when the Rebbe started, Mem Zayin, Mem Ches, Mem Zayin Bifrat, with every house, a Chabad house. What does it mean you're not a shliach? You're menahel of a Chabad house. Wherever it is, you're a shliach. What does it mean, the shliach? There's an interesting thing that Benjamin Klein told me once. I had an offer once to go on Shlichus. No, not on Shlichus. I had an offer once to become a Rav in. I've been on Merkez Shlichus to Africa a few times, and so after I got married, I got an offer from the Kehila.
What year did you get married?
I got married Tavshim Mem Ches. I got married Chav Tes Shvat Tavshim Mem Ches. The Rebbe got it from Shiva the day before. The night of the Chasana, the Rebbe said a Sikha in which he mentioned the Chasana. We could talk about it too. It's an interesting thing.
Mentioned the Chasana?
Yeah. The Rebbe said, Bifrat, as we get gleich herein von Shiva Me'avelus zu Ha'inyan shel Simcha, Simcha Achigdeila, Shiva Me'amishte von Chasana V'Kala. This was said after Hol Hakdama of Moshe Rabbeinu Tiken Lahem L'Yisrael. I'll jump to this. We'll go back to that. Yeah, you're okay. Yeah, you're okay with the jumping around subject.
Just make a note. Make a note. Remember
a parenthesis. Okay.
Yeah.
So I got married Chav Teshvat, Tavshim Mem Ches, and you could understand that on Chav Teshvat Tavshim Mem Ches, I was very confused. Besides of hearing the Rebbe, the first tefillah that the Rebbe did mincha, was a heartbreaking for anybody, especially if you're a chassid. And who could think of a chassid?
The Rebbe was crying at the Kadeshim.
The Rebbe was crying, yeah. When he said that by Chazos Hashatz, it was pashat, tearing me apart. And now I'm gonna get married. With the band, the music, the Sachen. So anyway, so I actually asked the Rebbe what if we should do anything differently, and the Rebbe told me you don't need to ask because the Rebbe already said to all the meisters who had things planned not to do anything differently. As a matter of fact, I heard from my brother-in-law's father, Shimon Goldman, used to say a story, Shabbos Mishpatim, because he was in charge of the Gmach Shema Shabbos.
So he would say a story in front of the Rebbe every year.
So in the middle of the farbrengen, he would say a story. And he asked, and then he put on the Steinmock. It was part of the show. We put on the Steinmock. So he asked if maybe this time, because the farbrengen would be in the Shabbos in the middle of Shiva, and maybe it would be more a darker kind of environment, you know. He asked if he should say a story, and with the Streimel, and then the Rebbe said yes, and there's a longer story. It's a longer story than usual. Like the Rebbe didn't want any changes whatsoever. The Poyel, the night before the Chasana, the Rebbe gave dollars. And then the Rebbe asked that there should be a farbrengen that begins in the house. And the next night, Tuesday night, was a farbrengen in the house. And the farbrengen should continue Wednesday night in 770. The Rebbe gave 2 bottles of wine, the big bottles, the half a gallon, yes. 2 bottles of wine, one for the house, and one for there was a farbrengen in the house, and the continuation was a big farbrengen in 770 the next day. Shia Pinson called my shver.
Gabbai.
Yeah, Shia Pinson was the Gabbai in 770, and he's the one who made the announcement what time what will be.
You know? I think he announced that there's going to be a farbrengen in 770, and the Rebbe said it should be in the house. So then he said it's the hiskashrus is going to be in the house, and then
yeah. So Shia Pinson asked my shver. He called my father-in-law to find out the times of the wedding.
Who's your shver?
My shver is Jerry Simon, Yankel Simon. He was a famous caterer in Crown Heights. He was the caterer for the Chinuch Shluchim for decades. Chinuch Shlichus, the Gvirim, the Machane Soa Special Development Fund.
Crown Street.
From Crown Street, an American boy who born in Jersey, but he learned in Bedford and Din and was in a Meisters. He was part of Lubavitch. I mean, this is for anybody my age. He said, Jerry, they know what they're talking about. So he asked him what the shver, being the patient guy that he was. He says, "What's your business? Why are you asking?" So he says, "Because there's going to be a farbrengen tonight in 770, and they ever want to make sure that I'm not going to announce the time at the time of the wedding. So I had to find out before." So I mean, I'm not into the such a gentleman kind of guy, but sometimes you just can't go around it.
The Rebbe was sensitive about your chasana.
Yeah. But for the Rebbe, this farbrengen was negeb nefesh. The Rebbe gave mashke, the Rebbe gave a bottle of wine. The Rebbe gave directives. Start here, continue 770, and yet is that Frenchie getting married on the street. I'm not going to ruin the party for him. Good. Anyways, after I went for dollars after the Sikha, and Rebbe Groner told the Rebbe that I'm getting married tomorrow, the Rebbe gave me an extra $1, and then he gave me another $1, and he says, "I'll give him some kala noch in chuppah. Give over to you kala after the chuppah." My wife also went that night, and the Rebbe told her the same thing. Rebbe told the Rebbe she's getting married tomorrow, So the Rebbe gave her an extra $1 to give me by after the chuppah, also after the chuppah. So basically, Cheder Yichud, we exchanged the dollars. The next morning, the Rebbe gave dollars again. And so I went by. I didn't say anything. I went by. My father was also there. So when I went by, Label told the Rebbe, I'm getting married today. So the Rebbe gave me an extra $1 and told me, abgeben zum Kalle noch ein Sheva Broches. The first one was noch ein Chuppah. I already had one for the Chuppah. So say, give to the Kalle after Sheva Broches, or in mitten Sheva Broches. That's what they said. Then I went to get the Siddur from the Rebbe on that day. The Rebbe went to the oil that day. And I went to get the Siddur. The Rebbe came down, so Rebbe told us in advance, he says, the Rebbe's going to come. There were another 2 Chassanim. They were getting married, one in Israel, one in California. They were getting married in different places. So they came. It wasn't the day of their wedding. Their wedding was either next week, one of them. The other one was, I think both of them was next week. So Rebbe said, the Rebbe is going to ask who's getting married first. You say me. And then the Rebbe is going to give you the Siddur. Okay. The Rebbe comes down. And he had in his hand the Siddur and a bunch of letters. And the Rebbe asked who's getting married first. And I'm not going to volunteer to say ich, to the Rebbe. We know all the stories, There is no ich. They say me to the Rebbe. So I stood there like a guy, I'm saying nothing. So Label says him. The Rebbe gave it to me. He says, all that's good. Who's betting alles good? Ask for all the good things. And the chassan should be shat slachas. And when you finish, give it to the next chassan. To the chassan is getting married next. And then the Rebbe went to the Oyel. Meanwhile, I stayed there to daven mincha. Label told me, after mincha, I have something for you. So I went to Label after mincha, after I finished davening, and he had the letter. What's the matter with the letter is that Yechidus was actually Monday night. That year, the Yechidus of Yud was very, very late.
Yechidus Klalis.
Yeah. The Yechidus Klalis was very late. It was a week, 10 days after Yud Monday night was the Yechidus. Tuesday, I believe the Rebbe went to the Oyel. Tuesday night was the Istalkos. So in Yechidus, I gave the Rebbe an invitation. The Rebbe Gashmis didn't have time to respond, right? So after
Did Chassanim would hand an invitation to the Rebbe? That was a say there?
In Yechidus, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially that we thought that we have like at least 2 weeks from Yud Shvat to Chavtes Shvat is 3 weeks.
Right.
So it's plenty of time. But Yechidus happened to be mamish delayed. So there was the letter. So Label told me the letter was typed. The date was of Aleph Shvat, the day after the Yechidus. But the Rebbe signed it. He told me the Rebbe just signed it before coming down. The Rebbe signed the letter. And
before coming down?
When the Rebbe came down to give me the Siddur, and we went to the Oyel, they had an office upstairs also in his house. So before coming down, the Rebbe signed the letter. And
the Siddur was in the house. This whole thing was in the house.
It was in the house. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
All this was in the house. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They came down. I davened in the house. Yeah. So here the Rebbe took the time.
Before the Rebbe gave you the Siddur, in the middle of this, what's going on in Chafei Shvat, to make sure to sign your letter.
Sign a letter. Yeah. And then that night, I tell you, I insisted. I wanted my chasana to be on Chavtes. Why? Because I'm getting married in winter, and I wanted that, I want, after the chuppah, I want to be able to go to the Rebbe with the kala, and the only way you could do that is if it's a day the Rebbe goes to the Oyeh. Because, it's going to be very, very late, so there's a chance. So, Bedafke, I wanted to get married Chavtes. And turned out that the Rebbe did say Sikha, but we didn't make it because it was put before the Chuppah, whatever it was after. Maybe I should have gone myself. It was after Badekin, the Rebbe started the Sikha.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the cemetery to get dressed, with the kittel and the alazachen, and I heard the Sikha over there. Yeah, maybe I should have just walked to the Rebbe's house. I'll be back, but I don't know. I guess it wasn't the right thing to do for a chassan. But nonetheless, the Rebbe said the Sikha. And in the Sikha, the Rebbe said that the Rambam writes that Moshe tiken lam leYisrael shoyim me'avelus. Moshe has instituted 7 days of mourning. And immediately, in order to counterbalance it, he instituted the Sheva Ma'amishte, that when a chassan and Kala get married, they also have 7 days following this event of celebration. And they have explained very bariches how a chasana is the antidote, is the opposite of the Inyan Pistalkus. That the chasana is a concept of binyan adad is about eternity. And the way to balance out the Inyan of Sheva Me'avelus is with the Sheva Me'amishte, the Inyan of going, the of Chasan Kale, binyan adad. And then they ever said, and especially that we are going straight into, from the Sheva Me'avelus, straight into Inyanim Shel Simcha, and which is the Simcha Achigdaila, the Simcha of Chasan Vekala. And then this is the Inyan of Simcha Chasan Vekala, Zoichel Lechamisha Koilos, that had to do with Matan Torah, that Matan Torah was also the Chasana of the Eibishter with the Yidden. This Sikha came out Muge, by the way, and I saw the Haggadah. In the Haggadah, they have added Simchas Chasan Vekala Vechadoime. They've added one word. But from the audio and from the Tamlil of the verbatim of the audio, you see, that's what they said. Spoke about the Chasan Kala. Then they've added that we're going to Inyanim Shel Simcha. They made it plural because I guess there were other things. It wasn't just all about me. We've been talking about me.
That was including more.
Yeah, including more of this. Versteht sich that after that Sikha, the Simcha of the Chasana was unbelievable. All my friends who were not in a mood for a wedding, for sure came, and everybody else came. Being that Mashver was a very good caterer, so he was able to add a few tables. Actually, some of my friends remind me this. How after the Sikha, Mashver added a few tables to the hall.
So he knew that the Elam was going to come to the Chasana.
Yeah. He saw that it was a very, very favorite Chasana. So once again, it's not only the sensitivity of the Rebbe asking what time is the chuppah, what time is the chasana before for the farbrengen to take place, but in addition to that, they were mentioning it by a sikha. And in my position in public service, I have had many opportunity to show the sikha to chasanim who had just lost someone right before, or the family of the Kale lost someone right before, and so on. So I always gave them this encouraging, sikha to say, this, what you're doing now, zayin b'simcha, because this is what is erasing whatever you have lived, experienced until now.
It's amazing also, you hear stories like this, the Lubavitch is smaller, and the Yuds and the Chavs, the Rebbe had this personal connection. What's amazing is that this is Memches. Lubavitch is huge already, and it's not the same. It's not Tafshin Yud. It's not, but the Rebbe made sure to have that personal shaychus with every chassid, like in that way. It's like it's unbelievable, that type of thing.
Yeah, no, it is. And of course, those days, the Rebbe davened in the house for the year. And so I was a chassan doing Shabbat, so I had access, I was there for every tefillah, because like this, I don't say Tachanun, the Rebbe's minyan. Somehow I got to Ma'ariv also, even though there is no Tachman. But there's a chassan, so every time I came in, I was able to be there. During Shiva, there was mamish measured. A lot of people were there, so it was, but then the whole week after that, I was down in the Rebbe all the time.
Okay. Amazing. So it's Yom HaSmuchim, before or after, by the time this goes on to Gimel Tammuz. And the whole year, it's important for us to know about our personal connection to the Rebbe. Every chassid and every person in the Dair and every person in the generation has this connection to the Rebbe. Sometimes you know it, sometimes you see it, sometimes you have a story. But I think it's also important. I think one of the ways to arouse that feeling and that connection is to think about the Shlichus and the personal attention that the Rebbe gave either to you or to your mishpacha, or to your father, your mother, your brother, your zayder, and those that didn't have that, hearing stories like this can really help us understand, the personal connection that every chassid has with the Rebbe.
Yeah.
Okay. Rabbi Dahan, and thank you
Pleasure.
for the warm farbrengen, and I believe that I enjoyed every word, so I believe that many will too. And it sounds like we need to do a part 2, so let's do a part 2 a different time.
Good. Because I was gonna follow up with another Maisa how the Rebbe paid attention, but we could leave it for a part 2.
So say another one. Let's go.
Okay.
This is a free conversation,
Okay, free flowing.
It's like a farbrengen, you think it's done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I'm saying l'chaim the whole time over here.
Yeah.
I have my water. I'm like l'chaim avasser. It's good.
Very good. Another story. I'll tell you actually two very quick stories. But and then the part 2 we'll talk about concepts like this.
Okay, go.
The Maise is that I saw a letter that my father got when my older brother was born, and on the letter the Rebbe writes the date. It was written as Ches Cheshvan was typed. The Rebbe turned with a pen and he changed the Ches for a Zayin. And the letter is a regular letter, the same letter that I got when I had a baby boy, that the regular bracha that the Rebbe gave, Bebirkas Mazel Tov, and then the Rebbe adds, after this Bebirkas Mazel Tov, the Rebbe adds, Ubekesher leyem huladetoi lishnas hatzlacha. In connection to his birthday, you should have a shnas hatzlacha. And then the Rebbe signs. My father's birthday is Chav Zayin Cheshvan. So the letter was originally typed as a Chav Ches, and the Rebbe, maybe it's a Chavav, but we can't really see. The Rebbe changed with the pen the date. He put the Zayin over there. So in addition to writing a Mazel Tov for the birth, the Rebbe also benched him for his birthday. So it's very interesting because, many people receive, we know the stories about getting a letter from the Rebbe for your child, for your baby, for your chasana. And you wonder if it's the same. The Rebbe knows who you are, Bichlal. The Rebbe wrote to say your name. Everybody gets the same letter. It could be that everybody got the same letter, but each one of those letters was addressed directly and specifically to you. To the point in which not only the Rebbe knows your name, and he knows who you are in this letter, but the Rebbe knows your birthday, and he mentions it. And this is also a very, very important thing to realize, that when we ask brachas from the Rebbe, the Rebbe is the Nasi of the Klal Yisrael, and the Rebbe is your Rebbe, of you, the individual that you are. And I think this is also the kesher with Gimel Tammuz, to realize that this is happening still now. The Rebbe told us Beferish Tavshin Yud, how much, that with the whole Sikha of Levana and Yitzarich, with the request of Rida Anasi, that we have to continue asking the Rebbe for brachas, and the Rebbe will find a way to answer us. And this is still happening. And the Rebbe is answering you. When you ask the Rebbe, the Rebbe is answering you particularly. You should be able to see it ben basar.
Amen. Chaim Levracha, Yashakech, Rabbi Dahan.
Chaim,